Welcome to the Threat Insight Weekly group discussion. I'll jump right into the agenda. We've got a whole alphabet of accomplishments to highlight. And I don't see Matt. Where's Matt? Oh, there he's Matt. Good
what time
timing.
period are these 26 items? I know it's 26.
Since the last meeting. So it's that we had a list on the 18th that you can scroll down and see, and I just ran a query that said give me all of them closed on or since the 18th.
Weeks.
Yep.
26 things in 2 weeks. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And our new team member Kev is really pulling his weight.
Is that the community contributor?
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's got like 6 of them here. So. All right. Matt, you've got the first agenda item.
Yeah, so this was a kind of an FYI that Nicole passed along from her her team meeting. Will Meek is, I don't know if he's dedicated or not. I didn't think that we had a dedicated SDET for Secure, but it sounds like he has been at least joining their meetings and asked for us to give him an @mention for any features where there's going to be front-end work, so he can review the end-to-end tests and do any updates if need be. So that was that's pretty much it.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. I do believe he is dedicated to Secure, and I know up until recently he'd been going through each iteration and looking through the issue lists to see if there's anything that he needed to know about. So if we can mention him around planning breakdown is what he and I discussed.
Oh, perfect. So you're already aware of it. Way ahead of me.
It's good that it's being reiterated. Thank you, Matt. Tiago, follow up from previous discussions. Let's talk gherkins.
So this was a proposal that came up on the retro, and we decided to put it here for the team, for the group to consider. There's an example there, one that Mehmet did. And I believe I wrote one as well recently. I had to write an issue and I used gherkin to describe it. So it's a trial. Have some interest, because if you don't like it and you don't say anything, you might end up having to write some gherkin and be unhappy. But that's it. Thanks, Wayne.
It seems very accurate, a great way to do things, and also extremely prescriptive, which I think, it has its pros and its cons. But I'm interested, after people get a chance to take a look, to see what their feedback is.
Yeah, that could be the outcome of this. We'll be a bit more choosy when we use gherkin or not. One thing that's worth mentioning that Matt brought up is gherkin can get very complicated, and the example that we gave there, it doesn't have all these features of the language. It's a basic level just to sort out the cases where, when this happens, then that, or if this and not that. We got babies.
I'm not smiling at your gherkin this way. I'm smiling at this adorable baby.
Welcome.
It's our newest team member.
Do you have a Daniel? Do you have a little GitLab shirt for him?
Onesie.
Oh, onesie? No, I don't.
Oh, somebody's got to take care of that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work on that. Hold on, I'm kind of my action item list. The more the merrier on our discussion. So I'm glad she's here. Thank you for bringing up this gherkin topic, Tiago. We talked about it being something we experiment with. And I know that Matt said he's on board because, I think a lot of it is about defining requirements as issues are created and then improving that over time. So we're not going to try and ask people, we're not requiring it right now. Is that right, Tiago?
That's the idea. I'm making some notes now just to put that down in the document.
Awesome. And it sounded like a lot of us had a different experience working with gherkins, with whether it's with QA teams or PMs and requirements.
So is the engineers then wouldn't be writing any gherkin, we just have to read it. It would be like whoever did the PMs would be doing it then, is that correct?
Not necessarily. I think if you're reading a gherking and it's not clear, you should go and rewrite it. Or if something doesn't have a gherking language and the English description is conflicting or not clear enough, you might take a stab at going. But I think you're right that generally it's expected that the product manager does that. And I think Matt's happy to, so we good there. Right, Matt?
Yeah, I'm definitely willing to give it a shot. I think maybe this is a silly suggestion, but if we don't want it for all cases where it's not needed, maybe much like we have the carrot for reviews, is there a pickle emoji that's probably not in there for various reasons, but if we could use some sort of an emoji to denote that it's requested on the issue, perhaps, like if we want that clarification.
I like that idea. I'll write it down.
Yeah, it's a good one. Thank you.
Make sure to use the work appropriate pickle emoji.
We found there's another pickle in Slack, right? Alexander, we found this one this morning, but it's a cartoon pickle.
Is it Pickle Rick? It might
Pickle
be
Rick,
Pickle Rick.
right? It's totally Pickle Rick, isn't it?
Maybe.
Confirmed, it's Pickle Rick. Okay,
Yeah.
moving on. So about a week, no, I guess it was after the last planning breakdown discussion we had, I shared an epic with a breakdown for the failed jobs design issue that we all thumbs up on in our planning breakdown. I got no response, so I assumed everything was perfect. But the comments in the issue say otherwise. I think there's some confusion. So if, as a group, everyone can take a look at the epic and make sure that the issues that were created off the epic represent what you think makes sense. I think, Tiago, I think there's 2 duplicate backend issues now. So I don't know what the correct process is at this point, as far as, we've had the conversation at a high level. We identified there's front-end, back-end work. These issues were assigned off for refinement. I guess my ask for everybody is make sure that you take a look at the epic to see what other issues were created off of that epic as you're doing your refinement, because that'll help as you're asking questions of, is this already available in the back end? Is this covered in some other issue somewhere? So this is a repeated request for everyone to take a look at this epic and make sure that the implementation issues off of this are what you would expect to see.
Shall do. And the duplicate issues that you think is the BE add pipeline widget and the ensure API support.
That's correct. I don't know if we need 2 different issues for 2 different purposes. I didn't want to make that call, but I'll let you figure it out. Cool. And in general, suggestions for how to improve this part of our process are welcome and appreciated.
What if so there's some issues around creating the backend issues for this one. What happens if we just create the feature issues and then spawn the backend issues once they're identified? If they're identified?
So by feature issue, you means kind of tie the front end changes.
Yeah. And then if we're oh, there's backend work with this, that's when the backend ticket gets created and it's just like a clone of the issue.
You don't like my catch-all?
Ensure API support.
It seemed like it would meet all the needs.
Sure, all the backend work is done.
As the only person representing the backend team here today, what are your thoughts on Alexander's suggestion?
That was what I did for backend. I'm not sure where the ensure API support came up.
I created that at the time that I did the breakdown. So I think what you did was following in line with Alexander's suggestion of, the front end issue was getting refined. There was a question of whether the data was already available in an endpoint. So you created the backend issue at that time, which is sort of the pattern that I think Alexander is suggesting, versus, during our planning breakdown discussion, we said, there is backend work for this, generally speaking. So I created sort of a big bucket type issue for that, whereas this would be more targeted towards specific needs of the front end for data.
Yeah, I'd say I'm easy with both, but the fact that I didn't notice the issue before creating the one reading the issue, maybe Alexander's suggestion is better and less error prone. So stick with that for now.
Okay. I'll put a little note here and we'll move on. So everyone take a look. Is any other suggestions or comments on this item?
I'll take that note for you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
If Matt moves out of the way and Alexander, everybody's there. It's mine. Move.
You're such a bully, Tiago. You're just pushing people out of the way. Jeez. All right, we got a couple of demos listed here. So Savas shared the fixed remediation badges. So I know this has been kind of, I think it was something that we initially launched when the MVC and then found some issues with it. So you can see lots of blue badges now. And Daniel shared the detection date timestamp on the vulnerability detail page. Thanks, Daniel. And we're all celebrating that the security issue is merged. Woohoo!
Yeah, that was a great learning experience by us. Now we know how that process works, and we've got good ideas to improve it. So great job by the team on it.
This is a good plug for our retro. What to improve on is that with the next person who does pick up a security issue, remember that especially if it's the first security issue that you've picked up, that we want to go with a buddy. So make sure that somebody else is assigned to the issue, not to necessarily help with your code changes because we have reviewers and maintainers for that, but because the process itself is subject to missteps that can make it completely miss a release. Tiny little things.
I'm curious on that one. Did the GitLab bot hunt anyone else down on Slack about that a couple days ago?
It's targeting you. He found your personal account.
I guess that's the thing for the product managers. Yeah, it pulled that out and was pointing out that I guess the SLA was technically like a day or two past where it was at, but it put it into Slack, and I was very surprised by that. Interesting.
And our approach for missing that SLA was, since we knew we weren't going to be able to push forward the security release, we communicated back out to HackerOne of what the updated expected release date was going to be. All right, we've got one item for planning breakdown. And I'm going to stop talking and let Matt or Andy walk us through it because it's big.
It is big. I'll say a few words and then I'll let Andy take over since it's his design. So we've been talking about this for a long time. The current MR experience today is, to say it's not the best in terms of usability if we really want people to see new security issues in the development workflow. So Andy has put a ton of effort into rethinking how it's going to behave altogether. So the solution is really taking it out of that sort of, what you would really call it, sort of that little stacked table where all the various different widgets run and display data in the MR. And we're going to pull it into a totally new tab, a security tab in the MR. So it's going to be closer to like the pipeline view.
Yeah, I can share my screen. So this is it. That's all. Just gonna move the blue stuff to the, no, I'm just kidding. So today, like Matt said, right, we can kind of each individual report is in its own line item in its own collapse expand row. We want to smash all those together in the same list, almost like we do with the security dashboards, pipelines, basically security report, vulnerability report, full stop. We can almost consider what we're doing in the security tab as the MR security report. So it kind of helps with our classifications. But to do that, we need to kind of work in this new paradigm of kind of communicating in this very tight, small space, a bunch of information and accounting for a ton of edge cases that I'm sure I haven't even really scratched the surface of. And how we'll do that is, let's go into the first design. That's a wireframe. Let's go into this design. So tomorrow, whenever we want to get this done, we'll begin with just this kind of widget area like we have today, but we're going to take all the action and kick it over to a tab. And so in this case here, there's no vulnerabilities, begets no action. There's nothing to look at. We remove that button. Today we have this mechanism of like view full report. Don't suspect that that's as valuable here. You're just going to the pipeline report. It's not doing anything for your merge request. As an engineer, developer, someone who just wants to get their work done, it's not really part of their task to go babysit the pipeline for old vulnerabilities. The task is get this thing merged. So our next screen. So now in the past, we have this like long syntax of security scanning has detected one critical vulnerability. Maybe there's some that have been fixed, maybe something else, and it's a kind of like a laundry list. We really just want to clean that up into security scanning has done something. Think about it that way. So security scanning detected 45 potential vulnerabilities. It's kind of what we landed on in this space. We're going to call these potential. And then we just call out how many of what. So 2 critical, 3 high, and 40 others. So everything from medium to info is other.
Andy, we consider unknowns as well for when approvals are needed. Did you match that there? What's the consideration?
We didn't really tie that directly to it because I expect that when we move past this iteration, we will be tying in a like security gate feature where you can control what's going to be blocking or adding that approver. And there's other stuff that's kind of like in flight from the SCA team on approvals right now. I will probably not impact, but help emphasize that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. When we did solution validation, these 2 items, like we asked, like, what are the most like important things for you to see? We always heard critical high. Like everything else indexed so much lower in that study. So that's why we wanted to kind of make this bucket. And then our call to action is view results. And so when we have errors or we have anything that's kind of security job failed, pipeline's out of date, the source branch and the target branch don't know what they're doing with each other. Like we are just going to be messaging that with an alert down here. So we'll be nesting banners underneath here. Vulnerabilities that are remediated, you get a success banner. It goes right under here as well. And most of those cases are documented. Saying can't generate a report, security report's out of date. And here are those kind of non-error cases that we have. So we'll have like your scanning results are kind of pending. Today, if you go in there and you'll see that the results are kind of pending, it says no vulnerabilities detected, security jobs running, or some odd language. We're going to clean that up. When you come to the page and it's just loading, we give you a weird message in this area. We can just say that we're loading here. Detected, no vulnerabilities, and then fixed vulnerabilities. All the job failure states we have. So we have job failures, misconfigurations. I tried my best to combine all of the error cases into as few as possible so we aren't managing and maintaining like 400 different cases with different language and text. So I got to around 4. So there might be more. So there may be dragons there. We can also help people with this little tool tip, like why am I seeing this error? So we can pre-populate like a popover with some more precise messaging based on the error.
Does the copy, sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
Do you have a general catch-all for those dragons that you referred to? Sort of a generic, something wonky happened message, Andy?
Yeah, kind of like this to generate an accurate security port. But we do say, you know, security scanning results are out of date, out of date, out of date. Same message, same message, same message. If we can do more prescriptive things with the popover and this question mark, that's great. We always want to help people with their error messages. How do I fix this thing, or what is this all about? I believe the SAST team or the SCA team had documentation somewhere around these specific error cases that I can no longer find in our documentation, but they are there. Tiago, do you have a question? You went on mute.
Oh, sorry. Do we have a copy for the hover on help?
Yes.
For all of them, they're all.
Just these two. So these two are those like finicky user enables security scanners after the source. Like that's kind of a wild edge case, but it probably would happen once for every project. So we would probably want specific messaging for this one too. So I'll make sure
So
we have that.
no. Do we need technical writing when breaking this down?
I think it would be helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
So real quick before you move on, does this feel like the right time then to mention Nick at this and have him take a look at it while we're at this early phase?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take the action to do that.
Okay. I think he was involved a little bit early on, but I don't think he's seen the whole thing completed. So here's all the icon states that we would want to manage and handle. Fairly simple, straightforward. So we get 4, really. This one's some duplicates. And then our security tab. So the user can either go right to the security tab, like they can do with changes, or they can go there from clicking that view results button in the MR widget. Here we see pretty much everything that looks like what we have on the list today, except for this solution column. We'd like to add this in. These are just icons. They are not links, but they may have popovers. This is kind of like a nice to have. You'll see that in kind of like my point of view. I'm breaking this down. What this does is it tells people if there's like a written plain text solution, like update to 4.1.3, or if there's actually like an implementable patch or something to download. This would be like the guidance. Actually, we had these. We had the discussion. No, we did. I have mocks for the tooltip.
Could that be both?
If there's a patch or something to download, it would just be this. But they do also have plain text. But if so,
the patch takes priority.
Yes, patch always takes solution or priority. Yeah. That's a good Gherkin statement. And then the modal, just like we have today, just rip and replace, keep it. Nothing changes there. So nothing really changes with the interaction of vulnerabilities in this experience. It's just how you're seeing them and how they're presented and the data you're getting.
This is great. I think it's going to really improve the user uptake,
Yeah,
developer uptake of the secure features, period.
yeah, I think that's something we found out too. And I think there's a lot more juice to squeeze around this experience and this too, right? I think Matt was identifying that too as like a great target for like increasing our IACVs and stuff.
Yeah, I totally skipped over all those parts of it. I was thinking about it, but yeah, the MR, we're going to spend several iterations focusing on this because we've put pretty much all the effort so far into sort of the AppSec team side of things, and we're in a much better spot with them, but there are still a lot of challenges, and we're trying to dog food right now on this MR widget. It's not a super usable experience. It's not pleasant. And if we want to drive that broad adoption inside of companies, there's usually probably 10 to 50x more engineers than there are security folks. So that's where our real usage numbers are going to come from. And we want people to be, I don't want to say excited about security as part of the development process, but hate it a little bit less. Right. And some of the things that Andy's included in here, like those icons to show if there's a patch or a solution available, this already came directly from feedback where people were using and saying, you know, I got to click into the vulnerability detail to see if there's a patch. Can I just see it? I don't want to have to click in the stuff where there's not one. So we're going to see things that we're adding here that we're going to want to bring back into the security dashboards as well. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to really tie, to use the Big Lebowski, it's going to tie the whole room together. All the vulnerability management experiences will be a lot more similar.
This is our rug.
This is our rug.
So I took a swing at how this could be broken down while maintaining a consistent experience. Because what I showed, that's a ton of work. I don't think there's an expectation to do all that in one milestone. I don't think that's, I mean, if it's possible, that'd be great to see if we could prove me wrong. But what we could do is we just update some of our like logic and language just in the widget, keep everything the same, step one. Just more of like a visual update. Then step 2, get rid of these lists and move to the single widget paradigm, while at the same time creating the security tab and importing just the list we have. And then accounting for these like 4 URLs scanned from DAST. We don't want to leave DAST out. And then next, we would have the addition of the solution column, a solution filter, and would be super cool if we could get counts in here, because we don't have those nice counters up top. So at least some indication of how many of these things are there. And then in the future, maybe this could be cool. I don't know. Like a little hover state that shows you exactly like which jobs failed or which jobs succeeded, instead of like digging through the pipeline itself. You just click on the icon we have. And that's all.
Hey, that was a great breakdown, Andy.
Oh, thank you. Questions, comments?
It looks good.
Yeah.
And as I said, the breakdown looks totally reasonable. It's nice that it's so we're basically gonna have the pipeline security tab in 2 places then, correct? We're like leaving it in the pipeline view as well, and then adding it to the MR view.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bring it in the MVAR view and make it more contextual to what's actually happening in the MR.
You mentioned the order of the MR widget, the evolution there. Do you and Matt have an idea of the order of the general thing, of everything together? What comes first? Do we start with the widget? Do we start with the view? Or you don't really mind? Do you want to see this as a giant epic? I'm thinking about the breakdown for engineering.
Yeah, it would probably make sense to start with a widget, because that's probably where all the like edge case and use case actions happening right now. So how do we do errors and how are we handling those? Because we want to handle those differently. The list, since it should be a component, seems rather trivial, but I'm not gonna, yeah, see, yeah. See, Alex, there, nope.
No, it is.
I don't want to speak for anyone over that, but I think that is probably not as complex, in my opinion.
What do you think about having the security tab there being added, but not having the widget like point to it right away? And that way both of them can like move forward on both fronts.
That sounds like a great feature flag. Because I don't think we'd want to put the tab there unless there was actually something to go there. Or are you saying like you would actually put the tab in when you actually had the list view ready?
No, I was just gonna add, like thinking about just adding the tab there because it still shows all the security scanning for the pipeline. Pretty much, I would think it has pretty much as much context as like the pipeline security tab has currently. So just having it there, but then not having the widget like linked to it.
We'd remove the results that are in the widget today then, right? That expanding list, we'd want to remove all of those.
We
and
could.
Be link to a tab, so we would still have the current syntax. I think it could work. I think the hard part there is just getting Ruby to do what we want and get all of them in the same list in the MR.
I get the feeling we're going to need more time for this discussion. Sorry, Alexander. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. And, you know, I know Tiago just dropped off. We only have 1 minute left. This is a big MVC. And I know that I've got a few questions that I'd like to ask too. Do you want to wrap up this point and then we can bring this back up next week?
I'm good to just bring it up next week.
Cool.
Yeah.
In the meantime, questions can be asked in the issue as well. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's good to remind everyone, this is not our area of the application. We are playing inside of another stages component. So we do need to be very, very careful about rolling out things that look polished and complete. Because I know that there's a lot of sensitivities around it since the MR is already at the, I believe, complete or lovable stage even.
I think it just
Also
got bumped
balancing
down.
that with iterative development, which I know that is, those can very polished and very iterative. Sometimes we're at the opposite ends of the spectrum. So we need a balance there. maybe more towards the polished side than we generally do, but still be very iterative.
And Andy's made some suggestions around what he thought made sense as far as how to be iterative about this that are reflected in the design mock-ups.
So you're saying we shouldn't make it flashing red anytime any vulnerabilities are found. People wouldn't like that.
We could say new and like a jump out.
Yeah.
Just send
Maybe
your
we should get
PM a
pop-up,
Slack
JavaScript
message every
pop-up.
time.
Kidding. No, great stuff.
All right, well, we'll leave this on the agenda for next week, and we'll share this recording for folks who weren't able to attend, so it can spark some questions in their heads around this. You know, I know that before we pick up this effort, we're going to have the MVC that we reviewed last week around failed jobs on the project level security dashboard, so we have some time is why I'm bringing that up. All right, everyone, we're 1 minute over.
It's great seeing Rumi today, Daniel.
Yeah, she's so darn cute.
Thank you.
All right, babies of GitLab YouTube. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for coming, Neil.